You are live. You can start when you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Annapolis Board of Appeals special virtual meeting for February 1st, 2022. This meeting is being broadcast on the City of Annapolis's YouTube channel. My name is Christian Zazali, and I'm acting chair for the Board of Appeals. This virtual format allows the public to observe the meeting through video link and submit written comments through the City of Annapolis website. Links to the YouTube channel, the comment form, and the city's database for case information may be found on the agenda for tonight's meeting. The people that you see on the screen are members of the Board of Appeals. When a case is called, the representatives of the parties will also appear on the screen. Also participating in the meeting are the counsel to the Board of Appeals, Cheryl Woods, I assume, yes. Our recording secretary, Kim Consoli, our technician who will help manage the broadcast of the meeting, as well as participants. Also, there will maybe representatives of the city, including Joel Braithwaite, assistant city attorney, counsel to the Department of Planning and Zoning, Jacqueline Rouse, liaison to the board, and one or more members of the planning staff. We ask anyone but the members of the board to mute their audio. If anyone else wishes to speak during the meeting, please raise your real or virtual hand and we will call upon you to speak. There's a couple other messages here that I'm obligated to read as we are in a virtual format. Written comments or matters of the board tonight that we are submitting up until noon today are made part of the record, and we did receive notifications up until, including today at noon, have been forwarded to the Board of Appeals in advance of today's meeting. In order to allow additional comments in response to evidence received at the hearing tonight, the record will remain open in those cases in which evidence or arguments was received tonight until our next meeting on, insert date here, Jackie. We'll add that later, whatever our next date is. Additional public comments received until noon on that aforementioned TBD date will become part of the record and forwarded to the members of the Board of Appeals and all parties involved. Let me remind everybody that communication with this board about any case by anyone other than a party to the case must go through the comment forum. All communications by parties must go through the board liaison. No one should contact any member of the board directly. We'll begin the meeting by calling roll. Please call the roll.
Mr. Zazali.
Here.
Mr. Walsh.
Here.
Dr. Chen.
Present.
Mr. Dews.
Present.
And Mr. Burnett will be arriving shortly. We do not have Chairman Gallagher.
Okay, we have a Board of Appeals agenda dated February 1st. Does the board have a chance to review the agenda, and may I have a motion if so?
I have, Mr. Chairman, and I would move the agenda be approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, meetings are approved as submitted. Next thing on our item is letter C, approval of the previous meeting minutes. I was not at the meeting minute. I don't know if we have any to approve. Are there any before the board at this time?
There are
Yes, sir.
meeting minutes and I move to approve them.
Any comments to those previous meeting minutes or as submitted?
I second.
Okay. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes as submitted?
Aye.
Aye.
Sustain or abstain?
I do as well. I abstain as well, Christian. I wasn't present.
So we have two, not quite a quorum. We'll have to take that one up when somebody joins. Okay, we will now go to the public hearings. The first hearing we have before us is special exception 2021-005, the application by the Iron Rooster for an expansion. This is the public hearing will be continued on this one. I guess February 16th is our date. Is that correct, Jackie? Okay, so the date that we were looking for during my preamble was February 16th. We'll enter that in. Well, you could admit the folks for the Iron Rooster application, please.
So is David, are your architects here?
Yeah, Mr. David Miles should be joining the call.
I sent him the prompt. Until he accepts it, he can't talk or.
I'll ask, there he is.
is.
David, can you get your camera on for us and your microphone down in the lower left usually?
David, you need to join as a panelist.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The
There you go.
the
Turn your
box that
camera on.
pops up.
Where's the panelist thing?
It's a pop-up box. It should be
Got it.
coming up on your screen. And then yep. So now you're a panelist. Now you can turn your video on.
Okay, we're all here, confirmed, yes? Okay, Mr. Scott, would you like to introduce the application? Is this your case?
This is my case.
Oh, sorry, Jackie. Would you like to introduce the case?
So this first application before the board tonight is a request to expand an existing standard restaurant with alcoholic beverage service that's located at 12 and currently located at 1214 Market Space. And the application is to expand into both 16 and 18 Market Space. There's been a restaurant in this location since 1989, and over the years there have been a number of applications for expansions, first to the second floor and then to the adjacent building and then to the second floor of the adjacent building. And most recently there was an application in 2015 by the current owners to expand into 16 Market Space. However, that application, that project did not proceed. The special exception expired. The applicants chose instead to open up a retail goods store in that location, but they are now back and with a complete redo of the interior and an expansion into both 16 and 18 Market Space, and with a number of interior improvements. And I'm going to let the applicants explain to you what they're proposing.
Okay, who represents the applicant?
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Dales. Okay, you're familiar with our workings here. We've been here many times. You understand that we favor things that are that we need to understand that are different about the special exception, that are exceptional or otherwise might sway us. We have had the city's report and all its exhibits. So if you can use the time however you see fit.
Thank you, Mr. Zali. Good evening to the members of the board. Phil Dales, 181 Harry S. Truman Parkway, Liff, Walsh, and Simmons. I have with me the owner of the Iron Rooster, Mr. Carl Werner, and the architect for the project, Mr. David Miles. The general manager is with us this evening, as well as Sarah Neal, who's a land use planner in our office here at Liff, Walsh, Simmons. I will take your hints, Mr. Chairman, and proceed with a combination of a proffer in that the application materials submitted to you, comprising mostly of our statement of justification, adequately address all of the criteria for the special exception, which is, as Ms. Rouse accurately states, merely the expansion of an existing restaurant that has been in place as the Iron Rooster since 2014 and has operated successfully within the fabric of the City Dock and Ward 1 communities for all those years into the two adjacent spaces, which are other uses in already existing commercial buildings, such that we are increasing the number of seats above the 116 excluding outside now in just the 12 and 14 spaces to the two adjacent spaces at a number of 249. However, there are already in place previous approvals that allowed for 228 seats. So really, we're replacing just the general store Ms. Rouse mentioned and the adjacent space with these additional seats. And operations will generally remain the same, although they will be improved by the changes we will very briefly highlight through witness testimony. And with that, I would ask Mr. Werner to please unmute his microphone so that I can go through just a few questions with him and then move to the architect.
Before you do that, Mr. Dales, can you fired out a bunch of numbers there pretty quickly. What is the current capacity of the as the restaurant operates now?
Well, the capacity I don't have in my notes here. The number of seats is what I mentioned, and then the actual number of seats in place is 126, but that includes 10 on the sidewalk. So 116 inside the 12 and 14 Market Space buildings.
Okay, and they're going from 116, and if the special exception is approved, they'll go to what?
So we will add in 16 Market Space 24 seats, and in 18 Market Space 76 seats. So that would be a total of 249, which again excludes the sidewalk cafe numbers, which are a separate permit rather than this zoning approval.
So more than a doubling. Okay.
Right, but you also should note that 18 Market Space is the former location of a coffee shop that also separately had 20 seats allocated to that, not.
That's correct.
So that's.
And I would also underline for the board that I'm providing these seating numbers just so the board understands the existing and proposed uses, but we're not running up against a specific seat restriction here.
Understood. Just wanted to make sure I had the figures correct, the facts. Okay, continue.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Warner, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Sure. Carl Warner, 12 Market Space, Annapolis, Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. And would you just provide a very brief description of your background in the restaurant industry in Annapolis and in other areas?
Sure. My background is prior to owning a restaurant, I was the owner of a government contracting company that did over $800 million a year in revenue. I retired from there in 2011, met my current partner, Kyle, and we decided to go out and open up a breakfast concept in this area. We took over Maria's restaurant in 2014, and we have successfully continued to be in business for the past 7 years. It's been a great experience. We've had a great relationship with the city. We've had our little bit of ups and downs, but we've worked through those. We look at this expansion as bringing in more jobs and more opportunities and be able to satisfy the clientele that reach out to us as it stands. One of the reasons for going into 16, let's take 16 first, is we want to put in a brand new kitchen. We need to expand our kitchen. If you were to see the size of our current kitchen compared to the capacity that we put out right now, it's phenomenal. But we need to expand our current kitchen. And the only way to really do that is to go ahead without disrupting operations currently today, is to set that new kitchen into 16. So the kitchen will almost double in size. It'll provide us the ability to continue to work through our business plan, which is currently we don't have any additional space on weekends at all to be able to host bachelor wedding receptions or wedding rehearsal dinners or bridal showers. We get quite a bit of people calling us to ask us if we're able to do that here. Moving into 18 will give us that ability.
Mr. Warner, let me just ask for you to break this answer down a little bit so we can go in a bite-sized answers here. If you could just give a very quick description of the characteristics of the restaurant and your team there, what's the general concept?
The general concept is we serve breakfast all day with lunch and dinner.
And so with that, what are your hours of operation?
We currently operate from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay, and so of the changes the architect will describe in a little bit better detail, and again, briefly for this board, can you talk about any of those changes that'll make the operations more efficient or cleaner?
Yeah, by putting in a new kitchen, it's going to allow us to expedite how fast food goes out, be able to maintain the health standards that are required by putting in new equipment and different things like that.
Thank you. And
I'm sorry, Phil, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The existing staff has been here. Our management team has been here for over 3 to 4 years now, consistently. So we don't anticipate any issue taking on the additional space because we will have a seasoned team in place to respond to that.
Great. And you were touching on the factors that brought the need for this expansion to your attention. You all often have a waiting line at your breakfast and brunch times. Is that correct?
That's correct. We normally, from April till November, we're always on an hour and a half wait to 2 hours.
And now with this expansion and having even more folks come to the capacity you'll have now, you're confident you'll be able to manage any queuing that would happen on the sidewalk to make sure the public rights of way are clear for pedestrians to come by?
Yes, this past summer was indication of that because we required everybody to stay outside because of COVID and the pandemic. We were able to manage that and keep the sidewalks open.
Okay, thank you. And are there any other factors that you have that have driven you to apply for this expansion here? Any other indications of the need from the public that that made you want to do this after already having sought it in the past?
Yeah, I think during the summertime, when we get a lot of, one of the things that Annapolis is trying to do is bring tourism into town. And as part of that, we see quite an influx of additional customers that want to come in and they want to dine with us. And again, it's the time limits are are at least an hour and a half during the summertime. So we're expecting by adding the new space that we'll be able to eliminate hopefully some of those wait times.
Okay, and just Ms. Rouse has provided her staff report to this board and indicated interdepartmental review shows that the facilities to support this restaurant are in place and the impacts from the expansion would not unduly burden public infrastructure or the surrounding community, would be compatible with the existing uses and plans in place. Do you agree with all that? And do you intend to operate and expand in a way that's additive for the community?
Yes, no question. And one of the things that we've struggled with our 7 years being here has been our trash. By going to this new plan, we will have doubled the size of our trash room and be able to expedite that more efficiently and effectively than has happened in the past. We're actually switching to a new trash company because our current trash company isn't dependable to pick it up on a timely basis. We've had some issues over the last year with that.
And you're talking about internal trash rooms too, aren't you?
Internal trash rooms that'll have all that we can clean outs and all that stuff. We have a significant size one plan for this it'll sit right outside where trash is currently picked up.
I'm sure your neighbors will appreciate that. Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Warner. If the board has questions later, we'll call you back.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Miles, could you please give your name and address for the record? Mr. Miles, I think you might be muted, unmute. No, still muted there.
Might have to take your earphones out.
Is that working?
Yes, it is.
Got it. All
Okay,
right,
got it.
great.
David Miles, I'm the president of the drawing board and the architecture from Annapolis.
Okay, just the address for the record, please.
The physical address was 1918 Forest Drive.
Thank you very much. And just a quick background on your experience working in the city of Annapolis.
I've been doing this for over 30 years and I've seen Annapolis grow up, and I lived in Annapolis for most of that time.
Okay, Mr. Miles, and the chairman's indicated they've read and reviewed the plans we submitted and the description of those plans to generally describe our expansion here. I've laid out the generalized scale of seats that we're proposing to add as we move into the two adjacent spaces at 16 and 18. Could you please just highlight for the board, and if you would share your screen for some context, just provide a quick overview of the salient changes to connect the spaces and to make changes to add the kitchen and make minor changes in the existing spaces.
Sure. We'll get to that drawing.
We can also, Ms. Neal has the plans ready if it's easier to have her share the screen and just direct her to flip through the pages for you if you want.
I can try to do this.
Okay.
Technologies, my friend.
Great.
Does that work?
Yep.
Okay. This is the first floor plans, and this is 12. Let's go to the existing right now. Here's where we are. This is the first floor plan. Here's 12 and 14, and this is 16 where they operate a store here and on the second floor. And this is 18, which was the coffee shop. Basically, go back to the first floor. Here is the kitchen for Iron Rooster, and it's like really small. And then the kitchen is here, and then there's some trash area there. So that's one of the problems is the kitchen is way undersized for the number of people that they serve. So what the plan and intent is to have a larger kitchen here, take the kitchen out of here completely, put the kitchen here, have the trash room here that was part of the kitchen. So this whole thing's gonna be trash room. And then this is basically the existing bar and and then we're gonna put some seats back here and a bathroom here, a handicap bathroom, which they don't have right now. 14 stays basically the same. There's a connection right here. So what they plan on doing is cutting through to 16 right here. This will become the main entrance for the whole facility. So we're going to come in here and then you wind up seating over here. And of course, if you want to go to the bar, you'd still go over there. But this kitchen is much larger, which is going to help. And then 18, there's more seating over here. And this is like a bakery bar. And back here is going to be another prep kitchen. So we're taking all of this and making it food, which is currently in a space like right here. So the intent on the first floor is to connect all the units so that you can flow from one to the other without like going outside or so operationally it's a whole lot better. Second floor, this is 12. Right here is a little storage area, and then there's a dishwash place here that's going to stay the same. So they're going to add some more seats here, but this is basically the same in 14. Then they plan on cutting through here on the second floor, which also allows the kitchen staff to come up here and serve all of the people on this floor. So right now there's the store in this area, so we're putting a couple tables up here. And then on 18 on the second floor, it's going to be like more like private dining is the intent. And we're putting a couple new bathrooms in the back here. But that's pretty much it. We're trying to make all of this flow together. And the circulation is going to be here from the kitchen.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Miles. I think what we'll do is, that having been a thorough description of the physical changes to the building, we will stop our testimony portion of the presentation here. And I'll just conclude with a summary of the board saying that this is a relatively unique restaurant used for Annapolis. We have quite a few restaurants in Ward 1 in downtown. We don't have that many restaurants with breakfast offerings, especially none in as great demand as Iron Rooster is for breakfast and brunch. We've got a good business member of our business community here who's got a track record of operating well within the community, who's been a responsible owner and who's looking to expand and just organically grow his business through the changes that were highlighted to you that will ultimately improve the operation for him, but also for the community as we increase that trash space and hopefully bring some of the waiting lines in off of the public rights of way. So with that, I'll conclude and invite any questions the board may have.
Before we go to the board, can we make sure that the special exception sign was adequately posted? Did we confirm that?
Once we provided affidavits of posting. And,
okay. And we want to submit are you submitting anything additional, Mr. Dales, or just the memorandum in your application as we have it?
Yeah, the application package as submitted doesn't need to be supplemented.
Okay, so that's just our single exhibit for today. That's and then I guess we had some public testimony on this received, at least it was received by the board today. Can you confirm the number of, Jackie, can you confirm how many public comments we received?
We have not received any public comments on this project.
Oh,
All
it's
public comments
the
that were
next
submitted
one.
are for your
Okay.
other item.
Yep, got it.
Right, we have not, have gotten no comments from anyone today.
Okay, thank you, Jackie, for clearing that up. No elevator required in the expansion?
Now, Mr. Miles can confirm that, but there's no elevator proposed.
Okay,
That's correct.
all right, because this is unique, the special except while you are showing it in its finished state, the special exception is just for the two addresses, which you have to separate the P from the pod here to visualize that. So while it looks big and ambitious, it's really just the two that you're asking for, not the whole thing. And I guess for the boards, it would have been nice to have hashed out the area that's existing with its own special exception and clarify which is the new bits. But I think we've generally got it. I will open it up to the board if they have any follow-up additional questions.
Chairman, just one I have for Mr. Dales and perhaps whoever he may give this to. Just a quick question about trash pickup and egress and ingress. Primarily, given the state of downtown market space and delivery trucks having to time themselves since market space is closed off for a good portion of the day, does that impact any of your plans?
So Mr. Warner was going to address that in his testimony. I think I directed him away from it. Unfortunately, I should have let him finish the statement. But Mr. Warner, you are, I believe, changing your trash management contractor, and now we have some different facilities in place inside the building to manage the trash and where it'll be picked up, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Walsh, we're actually, as shown on the current diagram that's up, this whole back area now is going to be the new trash room. Currently, we keep it in the back of 16, and this is actually Pickney Street that runs there. And so what will happen is, as part of us closing market space, we had to make accommodations to allow for trash pickup and so forth on Pickney every morning. So this will actually, for our staff, it'll be easier for them just to pull the trash cans out. We'll have the 50-pound tubs that we currently have. We'll line them up along the street like we've been doing, and making sure that there's nothing sticking out of them, that it looks like a good cleanse type area. So we believe it's going to be a better process for us, and I think ultimately for the residents on Pickney, it's going to work out better for them also.
Great. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Ms. Chen, Dr. Chen, anything for you?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, Mr. Miles, if you could stop sharing. Okay, I don't have anything else. I think we've touched on all our requirements. Any Jackie or Kevin, can you tell me if I've missed anything? I've been out of practice here on this co-chairing business for a while. Have we missed anything?
Good. The hearing will be left open till the 16th in case.
As a reminder, yep. The public comment period will be held open until noon of February 16th.
Yes.
Anybody who's watching wants to see the plans or see the application, they can see it through the e-Track portal. Yep.
Kristen, since you didn't ask, I don't have any questions either.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't. Yeah, sorry.
I don't think Andrew either.
Yeah, I couldn't see all you guys. I needed some reminder. That's why I asked them to stop sharing. I forgot who was here and who wasn't. Okay, with that said, we will hold the case open till February 16th. Thank you all for participating, and we'll see you in 15 days.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good night, members.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Bye.
Sure. Have a nice day.
Okay, if you would admit after we clear looks like we're clearing there. So now our next application is for 106 Annapolis Street, represented by Dr. Hyatt and others. Everybody who needs to be here.
Good evening.
Hello,
Mr. Chairman, this is Oliver.
City, is this Tom's case or Kevin's?
It's Kevin. It's mine.
Okay, hi, Kevin. If you're ready, you may introduce us to the case.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Kevin Scott. I'm senior planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning. Excuse me. This is a special exception, case number SE 2021-007 by 106 Annapolis Street LLC and 108 Annapolis Street LLC, collectively the property owner and applicant, to establish a standard restaurant with more than 50 seats, specifically 128 seats combined, indoor and outdoor seasonal, at 106 Annapolis Street. The property is zoned B1 Convenient Shopping District. It's located in West Annapolis on the mid block of the north side of Annapolis Street between Giddings and Ridgely, with Segelkin Lane, which is an alley behind it, which is how you access the parking lot behind it. The applicant has addressed all of the special exception standards in addition to the food and beverage standards that are applicable to standard restaurants. And we concur with all of their statements. Standard restaurant up to 50 seats is a permitted use subject to standards. It's the more than 50 seats that kicks in a special exception. The site has been properly posted, notice sent, ads in the newspaper. The applicant has submitted affidavits for posting a notification. We have received a number of public comments, both for and against, the majority of which were in support. They've all been submitted to the board. We're recommending in favor of the application with the standard conditions that we typically put on food service, with a couple notable ones that I'll just point out. No bar dancing or live entertainment. Recorded music shall be background variety indoors only. Hours of operation until 12 p.m. indoors, 10 p.m. outdoors. Alcohol service of food. Seating capacity 128 seats. And when the outdoor seating is in use, an equivalent number of indoor seats needs to be out of use so that the total number for the establishment doesn't exceed the 128 seats. Do you have any? This is a kind of a brief overview. The applicant will go in more detail. Do you have any questions for me?
Not at this time, not yet. You want to turn it over to the applicant or the representative?
Good
Yes,
evening.
please.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Scott and Mr. Zazali. Stephen Hyatt and Weber, 200 Westgate Circle, Annapolis 21401, on behalf of the applicant, 106 Annapolis Street LLC. I have the applicant, the representative for the applicant this evening. I have our architect from Hammond Wilson, Andrew Fishback, and I have our land planning expert, John Arison, as well as our civil engineer. I plan on just really going through a few highlights. You have all the standards addressed in your staff report and in my initial statement in support of our special exception application. Just going to have Mr. Fishback go through some layout elements for you, and then have Mr. Arison answer a few questions. But the representative for the owner is here, EJ Rumke, and our civil engineer is here if you do have questions in the matter. So thank you. And with that, I'll call Andrew Fishback, who will be sharing the screen with us. And you are muted, I believe.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, great. Could you
Perfect.
state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, Andrew Fishback, an associate at Hammond Wilson Architects, 434th Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21443, licensed architect in the state of Maryland.
Great, thank you. And a copy of your CV has been included with our exhibit package for the record. Mr. Fishback, you prepared the floor plans that have been submitted to the Department of Planning and Zoning with this application, correct?
That's correct.
And you did the site design plans as well, the architectural plans that were included in the site design plans for the newly constructed building, which is currently under construction, correct?
That's correct.
Just a couple quick highlights here. The building is brand new, will be new when completed, and will be sprinkler equipped to the satisfaction of the city fire department.
That's correct. Be fully sprinkled.
And the restaurant space, in addition to the entire building, will otherwise meet all life safety standards and building code requirements.
That's correct.
Okay, so just walk us through the floor plans, starting at the lower level parking area, off Second and Lane, and work your way into the restaurant space, if you will.
Sure. 1 second here.
Or work us from Annapolis Street, whatever is more convenient to your slide deck here.
All right, so you should see on the screen now the project site for the restaurant. It's located on Annapolis Street, 106 and 108 between Melvin and Giddings. Just wanted to give you an idea for the board and the public access to the site. It's access in the front on Annapolis Street and also the rear alleyway, the rear of the property. You see on the screen, the top images of what was existing prior to construction, and we consolidated 2 lots into one to build the building in the proposed area at the bottom of the screen. You can see the rear access to the parking lot on the lower level and then access on Annapolis Street. This is a quick diagram just to show the size of the building, the green space, the microfiber retention, and the rear parking lot and permeable pavers, the rear of the building, and the front porch elements and access off Annapolis Street. This is just an exhibit to include the improvements we're doing the rear alleyway to give the 20-foot right of way to access the rear parking lot. These are just some quick context images to show the building in the context and what it will look like when it's completed. The restaurant is on the lower level with its front deck porch that goes entire length of the front of the building, and it's partially covered by 2 porch elements. The second floor is 4 apartments, and the third floor is attic space.
And this is looking from Annapolis Street, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's go to the rear of the building.
This is the rear of the property line, the property access off the alleyway. You can see the 23 parking spots on the lower level, the restaurant space on the second level of this image, and then the rest or the apartments along the back, and then the attic space. The attic space and this portion of the roof cover the mechanical well, which I'll get into some detail further along. This is a current picture of it under construction. It's slated to be completed in May this year. So starting at the lower parking level, coming from the rear access way, you have 23 spots, 10 which are surface uncovered, and then the remaining 13 spots are underneath the building. Of those 23 spots, 19 of them will go towards the restaurant, and the remaining 4 will be used for the 4 apartments on the second floor. There's a bike rack. They're putting in a 1,500-gallon grease trap now with the base building that will be utilized by the restaurant. Entry to the building will come from the lane underneath the building. Handicap accessible building is adjacent to the building lobby. You have an elevator, a stair, and an exterior stair to get you to the first floor level. In addition to that, there's some mechanical elevator space. The proposed restaurant is accessed from Annapolis Street and the lower level. From Annapolis Street, there's 2 access points. One is a step up and one is a ramp access. Coming to the building, there's an outdoor seating area, 2 covered porch elements, coming to the restaurant space, there's a waiting area inside the restaurant. It's pretty much an open concept plan with open kitchen, a variety of seating, high tops, low tops, counter seating, an open kitchen. In the rear of the floor plan, you have the back of house spaces, prep kitchen, walk-in coolers. The gray area is the building core and shell space, utilities, MEP requirements, mechanical shafts, and access. There's also a shared trash room in the upper left-hand corner. Trash is brought to that room, dropped through the trash chute down to the common space and brought out to the curb daily. Access from below is you come up from stair A, the elevator, or the outdoor space, and there's multiple access points into the restaurant.
So trash collection, just to focus on that for a second, trash collection occurs on which street?
The rear alleyway, it's a Delkin Lane.
Great.
So trash is brought through via the chute down to the common trash room into the trash container, and that's brought out into bins through this pathway out to the designated trash area along the alleyway. It's picked up daily and is outlined in detail on our trash plan on the submitted drawings. And just to give you a quick section of the building, how it lays out, the blue is the parking area. The tan or lighter brown color is the restaurant area. You can see the proposed outdoor seating area, and I'll touch on that in a second. And then the gray area is the apartments and attic space. And you can also see where all the mechanical equipment for the restaurant in the building are stored and located in this sunken mechanical well to block odor, noise, and the visual aspect of those rooftop pieces. And just to go back real quick to the restaurant, it's a total of 128 seats based on parking. We're proposing seasonal outdoor seating of 36. So when that's in use, the interior restaurant will close off or remove 36 seats to keep that total seat count at 128. And that's it.
Great. Thank you. That's all I have for you, unless there's anything else you care to add, and stick around if the board has any questions.
Okay, great.
Yep, we'll allow you to keep going with your presentation.
Thank you. I don't know if you want to keep the screen sharing up or not. Maybe just keep it available and knock it down, because I'm going to call John Harrison next. Mr. Harrison, good evening.
Good evening.
Please state your name and address and your occupation for the record.
John Harrison, 707 Glendon Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland, 21403. And I'm a land use planning consultant.
Thank you. And Mr. Harrison, you've been qualified as an expert witness before this board before, is that correct?
That's correct.
And numerous other boards, including the City of Annapolis Alcohol Beverage and Control Board, Inver County Administrative Hearing Officer, and its board.
No objection. No objection. John is well known to this board.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, you're familiar with the application before the board this evening, correct?
Yes, I am.
And familiar with the location of the proposed restaurant on the first floor in West Annapolis?
Yes.
Do you believe the restaurant is appropriate, an appropriate use for this building?
I do believe it's appropriate. I think
And
it's something that West Annapolis has needed for a long time.
I agree with you. Given the description of what's being proposed, you heard Mr. Fishback's testimony and description, and you reviewed the plans. Do you think that there would be any negative impact to the neighborhood or general welfare of the community?
No, there wouldn't be.
This restaurant? And any other adverse effects beyond those associated with a restaurant at a different location in a B1 zone?
Yeah, there's very little B1 in Annapolis. One I'll note is that Davis's Pub is a little piece of B1 zoning in the middle of residential zoning in Eastport Inn. This use at this location will have no greater impact than it would in any other B1 zoned area of the city.
How about an impact on property values within the immediate vicinity?
No, I mean, this is a mixed use building that's being built new in West Annapolis, and I think it'll have a positive impact economically as well by bringing in customers for the existing businesses.
And you heard again, Mr. Fishback's testimony. Do you think that the applicant has adequately addressed how noise and odors and parking will be handled at the site?
Yeah, those are operational issues, but I do have to say that since this is a purpose-built building, hopefully as a restaurant, that it should have all the state-of-the-art equipment in it, or at least best management practices. So I don't think it's going to have a negative impact as it relates to noise and odors or anything else.
And is it your understanding that the hours of operation will be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood?
Yes, they will be.
Let's talk about community need for a moment, specifically West Annapolis and surrounding areas. Do you believe there is a community need for this type of standard restaurant? And if
Yes,
so, could you explain why?
There are a number of food service places in West Annapolis. This would be more of a standard fine dining restaurant. You've got Flamant there, which is sort of this ilk, but I think if you look at the comp plan, if you look at the West Annapolis sector study, the West Annapolis sector study actually said that full service restaurants are considered appropriate in West Annapolis. The comp plan identifies this area as an opportunity area, a place for economic development, for redevelopment, for infill development. I believe that it will enhance and support the West Annapolis Business District and surrounding neighborhood. And it's consistent with the comp plan. It's consistent with the standards for a special exception. It's consistent with all the other standards that have to be met for a restaurant or food service establishment.
Great, thank you. Anything else you'd care to add for the record?
I would only add that I've always thought West Annapolis was kind of a special place, and I think that this will fit in very well with the fabric of the business district along Annapolis Street.
Okay, great, thank you. That's it for Mr. Harrison and for our experts. Try to keep it short and sweet for you, or we believe that this special exception requirements at this location have been satisfied, can be satisfied. I will note that there is not a specific end user quite yet. There's several folks that have been in discussions with the property owner, the landlord, and they have all agreed that these are the requirements in terms of seating capacity and layout that they need to work at this location. And the community's agreed. You heard Mr. Scott tell you that there was public comment, mostly for, several in opposition. But the general sentiment since day one, I can tell you, I handled the legal work for the site design plan, and we had probably 100 or so folks come out to our community meeting, one of the largest community meetings, where in fact people were fully in support from day one and excited to see something happen. And now that it's coming out of the ground, the buzz is great. I mean, people are really looking forward to having another neighborhood amenity they can walk to with their families and really enjoy the benefits of the community. So, you know, we would ask that you respectfully approve the special exception, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I do have one. You preempted me on my question about the owner operator. So there is no lease currently signed for this
Correct.
space? Okay. At letter of intent, or not quite even that far?
Yeah, I'll chime in there. We have about 4 different groups that are.
EJ, just say your name and address for the record.
EJ Rumke, the applicant, 121 Melvin Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401. We've got about 4 different groups that have expressed some interest in the space. We are at the LOI negotiation stage. So a lot of these operators are just waiting for us to get over this next hurdle, and then that will allow us to finalize the group and proceed into the next process to get them in the building.
Thank you. So both MRE and Hyatt firm, Weber Hyatt, are not strangers to this board. You know how we work. The one I always prefer, me personally, that the owner operator is at these application hearings, just because there's some commitments that are being made back and forth. Specifically, there's some very tight language with regard to operating hours and trash pickup and so on and so forth. Would you be opposed to adding the requirement that the conditions of the special exception be included as an exhibit in any eventual lease?
I don't see any issue with that.
Wait, I'm sorry. You want the conditions of the special exception
as an exhibit to the lease? Yeah.
I mean, it's
Specific to hours and trash pickup. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I mean, I don't want to assume that we get into a protracted disagreement between the restaurant operator and somebody in the lease that says, well, I put my trash out the night before because it doesn't say anything in my lease about putting it out. I think it would give some comfort to the board in the absence of an actual operator acknowledging and accepting the conditions set forth, that you are doing it on behalf of a future tenant. You're acknowledging that you are going to have them have to agree to it, the special exceptions, requirements, the conditions set forth by the city. Even though they're baked in it, I would prefer to not have a gap in the paper trail between the special exception and the lease requirement.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's, we can include it, but the lease is going to be proprietary, so it's not going to be a public document. We can certainly share it, and as you're well aware, I'm not sure how to incorporate it. The special exception runs with the property, so
your firm is very clever. I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think what we can do, Christian, is we would typically have an exhibit in the back of the lease that has the rules and regulations at the property, and we can include it.
If you want to borrow from the conditions of the special exception and make them part of your building property rules, that is a perfectly plausible and appropriate way to satisfy my needs.
Yeah, we can do that. That's fine.
Great. That was all I had. Can I get a tally on the fors and against from the city?
Okay, so with attached to the staff report that I sent were 6 comments, and then there were 3 additional that were sent over today. And there was one that was clearly opposed, and his primary concern was that he thought it was going to be a bar scene. There's going to be a lot of noise, but in hours past midnight, but there's no hours past midnight because it's not allowed. There's no bar dance or live entertainment. So it kind of satisfies those concerns. And then the other, another commenter, and this one also is concerned about the traffic, that there's 23 parking spaces that are reserved for the restaurant on site. So where do all the other 128 seats park? So they're concerned that parking would spill over into the residential sections.
And the area around West Annapolis is permit parking or Wild West, Kevin?
The Wild West. Yeah, there's no, it's not permit parking right now, but there's commercial area in the immediate vicinity, but then it backs right up to residential. So there is available on-street parking throughout the neighborhood.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And then all of the other ones were all just in support of the need. And incidentally, the ones who didn't oppose the restaurant use. The one person did oppose the capacity, as it related to that the other impact of the the bar scene and all the other traffic, but they were still supportive of the restaurant use. And then all the other comments were overwhelmingly in support of a restaurant.
Okay, we will of course keep the comment period open until 12 noon on the day when we reconvene to deliberate this. Just again, restating for the record. Any members of the board have any additional questions for the applicant or any of the applicant's experts or representatives?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
First of all, Kevin, I don't know if this is you or it's Mr. Fishback, possibly Mr. Schuman as well. I just happened to go by Segelkin Lane today, and there's a muddy alley. First of all, ownership of the alley, access to the alley, the flow of the traffic. How is that going to work?
I can chime in there, and Terry can jump in if I say it incorrectly. The alley it's city owned as a part of the SDP process that we went through in 2020. A part of that approval was for us as the applicant to improve that alleyway up to a certain point. And then after the project is completed and we've done our work on the alley, DPW with the city will come in and pave the road, and then traffic will be one way from Melvin Avenue to Giddings to access the back of the building.
Thank you. As I was going through the materials, it occurred to me, since we have, in fact, some of us are, all of us have sat on the board on other special exceptions for restaurants in other sections of the city, most notably Eastport. I noticed the 23 parking spaces that are in your site design plan. Clearly, with 128 potential patrons, that would be insufficient. Thus, the comments we've seen from the public about the adequacy of parking, or whether it will spill out onto Annapolis Street or some of the residential streets, most notably Melvin Avenue. What is there as I recall, Kevin, there was a formula that was used in Eastport as related to restaurants at designated areas. There was a calculation that was made about restaurant parking space to patron size being used in restaurants. That's not applicable in the B1 zone.
In the B1 district, the parking requirement is based on 15% of the seating and standing capacity of a restaurant.
And this satisfies that.
And this satisfies that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't know, Mr. Walsh, is Stephen Hyde here. We've all observed, and EJ can speak to it since he literally lives right down the street, that really the corridor, most of Annapolis Street and the side streets between Ridgely and I guess Taylor all the way up to Melvin and Monterey. Really, after the working day, there's very, very ample on-street parking in that little 6x6 corridor. So to the extent there's additional parking, I think most folks will find readily available on-street parking without venturing into the residential portions of West Annapolis. And I think what you'll see is a lot of people walking from the community, hopefully, riding their bikes. It's certainly a goal.
Hey, Christian, you're on mute.
There was a helicopter going overhead. Dr. Chan or Rob or Andrew, anything?
Mr. Chairman, just a follow on, because I was looking for what is the standing capacity, since that was a reference to the parking. Do we know the standing capacity?
Well, there's no standing capacity figured into this one, but usually it's figured on 7 square feet is standing capacity in front of counter and pickup areas, but they don't have that as part of their floor plan.
So there is no.
It's all seating.
There's no place where I can get a burger and a beer and sit at a bar. Is the question?
No.
At least as it's drawn.
There's a counter and you can sit there.
There's counter seating, but counter seating is allowed as part of a standard restaurant. It's in the definition of a standard restaurant.
That's the 12, I see. Yep.
Correct. And if you want a beer, you have to get a burger.
Yes, please.
All right, thanks.
Was that an invitation or just a mandate, an imperative?
Imperative.
Okay, anyone else? As I mentioned before, hearing nothing, the hearing will be kept open for public testimony through the 15th, I think, or the 16th, 15th, Wednesday. In which case, any other public comments will be considered. Any other evidence that this portion of the hearing is closed, but the public comment period will remain open. And with that, we will close this portion of special exception 202107. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Okay, I've lost my agenda. Anybody have it in front of them?
I do. Well, believe it or not, it's just adjournment. Although if you want to go back and adopt those minutes, Mr. Burnett is with us now, who was at the last.
Okay, the minutes were, there was a motion and we had 2 for and 2 abstain. So Andrew, would you like to round third and bring it home?
Yeah, I would approve.
Okay, the meeting minutes are approved as submitted. Thank you. Anything else before the board, city or others? Hearing none, and I entertain a motion.
Would move to
Move to
adjourn,
adjourn.
since it's always me.
Yeah, that's good. We don't
I
want to
didn't
break
want to say anything because I jumped the gun last time.
Andrew, this is a city of tradition. We look forward to your motion to adjourn.
I have very important things to say, you know?
That's right. The caboose, we need that. You even got the right color on. Did we have a second? Dr. Sherman, did you second for the record?
Second.
All in favor?